Good afternoon, guys. It's O'Neill Anderson here again from GlobalFX. I just want to go through the Euro GBP. Um, but before we even go through that, I just want to give you guys a quick update on the CAD JPY trade that we had. Um, and I have actually sent the video analysis. So I hope you guys actually considered the long entry we had. But if you are in the signals groups or in our Telegram groups, then obviously you have actually received the entry that I have actually sent on the CAD JPY, right? So I'll just switch over to the CAD JPY. We'll be looking at a 30-minute time frame. As you can see here, we are already approaching our target profit. We just a few points shy away from hitting that target profit, or rather that TP. What we can see here is that we actually had a buy stop here above resistance here. I am aware that some of you guys actually used a buy stop, and some of you guys actually preferred um, to actually enter at the market execution once price has been trading above that resistance. As you can see here with this footnote, I have actually said that buy above resistance, and we've seen that price did actually, or rather our order has been filled, and price actually had this huge momentum to the upside. And as we can see that we are at approximately our target profit. So I hope you guys actually profited from this trade here. But nonetheless, let's look at our Euro GBP. As a standard procedure, you guys know that I like to look at my higher time frames first for a clear market bias, as well as market structure. Okay, this is a 1 hourly time frame. I think I'll just look at the 4 hourly time frame. And another thing to keep in mind, guys, is that always when you are trading, as I've said before, you want to look at the fundamental factors or the fundamental driving factors that's going to be driving either the code or the base currency in this case here, right? So if you're looking at your economic calendar, you do have a few high impact news coming out on the euro as well as on the pound. What we do know is that okay, my time here, because I'm actually in South Africa, it's 12, 12 at noon. So in about 2 hours, 2 hours 56 minutes, we do have the Governor Bailey's speech, right? So the BOE's governor, he'll be speaking at 3 o'clock, 3 in the afternoon. Now, I have absolutely no idea what his speech is going to be about, but all that I do know is that it will have a high impact on the pound, right? So you always want to keep an eye on that. And looking further into the week, we can also see that, or we do know that we have our gross domestic product that's actually being released at 8 in the morning, right? That will also have a huge impact on um, the the pound, the GBP. And just generally speaking, a rising trend, it has a positive effect on the GBP, while a falling trend is seen as a negative, or is seen as bearish, right? So we can expect a drop in gross. We can expect a drop in the strength of the GBP should we have a falling trend in the gross domestic product, and we can expect a rise in the strength of the GBP should we have a positive trend or a increase in GDP. Ultimately, because gross domestic product, that's a basic economic indicator of how well the country or how well a country is doing. Um, and then on the 14th of July at 10 a.m., so 10 o'clock in the morning, we see that we have ECB bank lending survey. Now, the bank lending surveys, normally referred to as BLS, for the euro area, just to give you a background, was launched in 2003. So its main objective here in this case is to enhance the euro system's knowledge of financing conditions to the euro area. So the BLS provides input to the ECB Governing Council's assessment of monetary policies, economic development, and so forth, on which it bases its monetary policy decisions. So when I say monetary policy decisions, could be looking at like interest rates, and so forth, right? And we do know that interest rates, it goes hand in hand with inflation. You always want to look at your consumer price index, and so forth, right? So I think that's the only fundamental releases, or the only news that's coming out on either the euro or the pound that's high impact. Um, we also do have on the 15th of July at 8 in the morning, you can see we have consumer price index. Consumer price index is basically released by the by the national statistics. It will have an effect on the pound. It's a measure of price movements by the comparison between the retail prices of a representative shopping basket of goods and services. When I say representative shopping basket of goods and services, it's your basic stuff such as your food, groceries, um, petrol, and so forth and so forth. There's a whole list. I won't get into the list now, but if you have actually taken the course, then you should know that what goods and services we are looking at. Um, so basically, the purchase power of the GBP is dragged down by inflation, right? Um, and the CPI, basically Consumer Price Index, it's a key fundamental indicator to measure inflation and changes in purchasing trends. So if we have more purchasing trends, that simply means that there's a higher tendency of people actually purchasing goods and services. So the supply of money, I wouldn't say there's an oversupply of money, but you'll see a relative increase in the supply of money. And then in such a case, if people are spending a lot on like general or representative goods and services, you could actually you can expect higher interest rates, right? That is just to kind of control the rate of inflation, right? So if you have more people purchasing, more people spending money, you then have inflation, and to control that inflation, you would have a adjustments in your interest rates and so forth, just to bring down the inflation to a certain targeted rate. It's usually about 2%, but I won't dive into much detail regarding that. So we can see that is basically the fundamental news that we have coming out for this week. I'm not so sure if you do have any more high impact news for this week, but that's basically it. There is a bunch of high impact news that's being released in this week, but that's for other currencies and so forth. We'll also be looking at the unemployment rate that will be released on the 16th of July. So you always want to keep an eye on your economic calendar. You can see we have interest rate decisions, the ECB interest rate decision. So that will have an effect on the euro. Then we have ECB deposit rate decision as well on the 16th of July. So you just always want to keep an eye on your economic calendar, and just be careful also if you're trading around the dollar for this week. There's a lot of um, fundamental releases, or rather news and statistics that we have come out in this week for the US dollar. So you want to be careful around trading dollar currency pairs, right? So coming back to my technical analysis here, what we clearly can see, the first thing that I would look at is, okay, not always the first thing. I'll be lying if I say it's always the first thing, but if I look at my EMAs, right, we see in blue I have my one EMA, then in orange I have my second EMA. Now, just to get a market direction or a directional bias, I've mentioned it in the previous video that if you have the blue EMA trading above the orange EMA, you actually have a bullish bias. But if it's trading below the orange EMA, then you have a bearish bias. And we can see your price has just crossed over um, the orange, or rather the blue EMA has just crossed over the orange EMA. So we could be actually heading for a bull market here. So this point here at the bottom, it's possible that this is actually our inflection point now at the moment, but we'll dive much more into detail, right? What we can see here is that you have this pattern here, right? It seems to be a wedge, right? If I just draw it in like this, now do take note that I'm looking at a 4-hourly time frame. So to get my entry points and so forth, I'll actually consider looking at lower time frames, depending on which time frame actually makes sense to me. I'll just remove these EMAs here quickly just to have a much cleaner chart. Now, as I've said that we've seen the orange, or rather the blue EMA crossover, and is currently trading above the orange EMA. So there's a very huge possibility that we could be heading for, or this could be a beginning of a bull market. So first thing we look to the top and left of your chart. We can see these resistance areas here, or resistance points here, right? So should we actually have a long entry, we'll be considering these profit targets here, or these TPs right there, right? So this is on a 4-hourly time frame. And we do know that the sentiment for this particular pattern here, we are actually looking for, this is a continuation pattern, right? So it's a bullish continuation pattern. So we will be looking for a continuation of this previous bullish momentum that we've had here, right? So we can see prior to where the market is now, we can see we've had a huge bullish run. So we've had this correction here. It's a huge correction, and this could just be its inflection point right here at the bottom, right? And we could be looking for long entries, and could send the market up again, or even higher than these resistance areas that I've highlighted to you guys, right? Now I'll actually I'll go to a 30-minute time frame. I like using the time frame to get my entries on a 30-minute time frame. I just think it makes your entry points much more accurate, and then you just avoid being in much of a drawdown should it happen that the market goes against you, right? Now looking here at the 30-minute time frame, right? Um, the first thing we can see, right, is that price is currently at a resistance, right? I don't know if you guys can actually see that. I'll just highlight it in. So you previously seen that, okay, this was a consolidation area right here, right? So on the hourly time frame, you'd see this consolidation area much more clear, right? I'll just drag this here to the right. Or no, I actually won't. I'll leave it here, right? So we can see that price has been consolidating here. You'd see this consolidation much more better on a hourly time frame, because we're on a lower time frame here. We're looking for our entry points. So that's the first thing that I see on a 30-minute time frame. Also, what you do want to consider, you can see that price is actually at a break of this continuation pattern that we've marked up on a 4-hourly time frame, and we can see that price has also broken through this resistance here, right? And it's currently heading, seems to be it's heading to 0.9, right? But I won't be executing at market price. So I'll always wait for the market. As you guys should know, that I always wait for the market to get to me before actually executing a trade. So what we can expect here, what's most likely to happen, in my opinion, I'm looking for a test of either this previous resistance that has been broken, so for price to come back to retest it as support, and then for continuation to the upside, right? But we'll only be entering once we have We'll be entering at market execution, but only once we have price action confirmation. We could be looking at bullish engulfing candlesticks. We could be looking at whether your EMAs, whether you have any crossovers and so forth. Another area to consider is for price to actually come down to retest um, this continuation pattern that it has broken, right? And then we could be looking for long entries, right? And once we are actually in profit, we will be taking our stop loss. We'll be putting our stop loss at our entry points, and we will actually let our profits run, and we'll just keep on trailing our profits as price actually moves up, right? So if it happens that price actually breaks below this inflection point here, then I won't be considering buying. I won't be actually considering going long on this pair, but at the moment, I'm pretty much confident to have a long position either at the retest of this broken resistance here. So for price to come back to retest it as support, or if not that, you'll be looking for price to come down to retest this continuation pattern here, and then we could have our confirmation patterns, our confirmation candlesticks. Preferred candlesticks would be bullish engulfing candlesticks, or we could be looking at hammers. There is a whole bunch of other reversal candlesticks that you can look at, but what I prefer are those that I've just mentioned to you guys now. Now, just looking here, just looking closely at this move here, right? So we can see that the market bottomed out here. It formed these higher lows here. So it is possible that price could actually come down, trade below this broken resistance here, and actually come for a test of a trend line, or what seems to be a trend line, and continue making its way to the upside, right? If it happens that price goes all the way up without actually getting an entry point, then so be it. It's not like we're losing out on the trade or anything. We find we are losing out on a trade, but it's better to lose out on a trade other than um to go along here and then have the market go against you. Then you react out of fear and then you close your trade. So you always want to enter trades where you'll be much more confident. This just avoids you making human errors in either closing a trade too early or just not considering proper risk management.